By the time Claire Bennett realized she had only $12 in her wallet, the man sitting 3 tables away had already noticed. She stared at the check beside her coffee cup. $7.80. Claire counted the bills in her wallet again. $10. 2 singles. Nothing else. She checked the small zipper compartment in her purse. A receipt, a lipstick, an old parking ticket. No money. Claire closed her eyes for a second. This was ridiculous. 6 months ago, she had been living in a $12 million house outside Hartford. She had access to private drivers, personal assistants, luxury credit cards, and a bank account that contained more money than she could realistically spend in several lifetimes. Now she was sitting in a neighborhood diner, worrying about whether she could afford breakfast. And somehow, this was exactly what she had wanted. At least, that was what she kept telling herself. Claire looked around the diner. It was nothing special. A few cracked vinyl booths. A counter with 6 stools. A coffee machine that sounded like it was fighting for its life. A handwritten sign near the kitchen advertising meatloaf for $8.99. There were no expensive cars outside. No security guards. No people pretending to be her friend because they wanted something from the Bennett family. Just ordinary people having breakfast. That was what Claire had wanted. Ordinary. She had wanted to know what life felt like when nobody knew her last name. The problem was that ordinary life came with bills, and she had apparently forgotten about taxes. Claire looked at the check again. $7.80. She whispered, "Everything okay?" Claire looked up. A waitress stood beside the table, coffee pot in hand. She looked tired. Not exhausted in the dramatic movie sense. Just tired. The kind of tired Claire had started noticing since leaving her old life. "Perfect," Claire said. The waitress glanced at the check, then at Claire, then at the almost empty purse. "Sure." She poured more coffee. Claire waited until she walked away. Then she looked toward the front window. Maybe she could leave the money on the table and pretend she had forgotten something. No, that would be stealing. She could wash dishes. That thought almost made her laugh. Claire Bennett, heiress to Bennett Holdings. Washing dishes because she couldn't afford a plate of eggs. There was something strangely appropriate about it. She reached for her phone. Her banking app was still open. She stared at the number on the screen. She could transfer $10,000 into her account in seconds. Nobody would ever know. Nobody except her. But that was exactly the problem. 6 months ago, Claire had made a promise to herself. No family money. No family credit cards. No calling her father's assistants. No using her name to get special treatment. For once, she wanted to know whether she could build something without Bennett money behind her. So far, the experiment had been humbling. She had rented a tiny apartment. She had bought a used car. She had taken a temporary office job. And she had learned that grocery shopping while calculating every dollar was considerably less glamorous than magazines made it look. She was reaching for the cash when she heard a child's voice. "Dad, pancakes are basically vegetables." Claire glanced over. A little boy sat at a nearby table with a man who looked like he hadn't slept properly in a month. The boy was probably 8. Dark hair, freckles across his nose, a missing front tooth. He was pointing at a stack of pancakes with the confidence of someone presenting evidence before a jury. His father didn't look impressed. "How exactly did you come up with that?" "They're made from wheat." "Wheat isn't a vegetable. It grows. So do weeds." The boy frowned. "You're very negative." His father finally looked up from his coffee. "I'm your father. It's one of my responsibilities." Claire couldn't help herself. She laughed. The boy immediately turned toward her. "See." His father looked at Claire. There was a brief moment of embarrassment on his face. "Sorry. It's fine." The boy pointed at his pancakes. "Do you think they're vegetables?" Claire considered the question seriously. No. His face fell. But I think they're an acceptable breakfast. The boy nodded. Exactly. His father shook his head. Don't encourage him. I think he has a strong argument. He's 8. That doesn't mean he's wrong. The man gave her the faintest smile. Claire noticed something then. His clothes were plain. A faded gray work shirt, dark jeans, work boots. There was a small stain near one sleeve that looked like grease. His hands were rough, calloused. Not the hands of someone who spent his day sitting behind a desk. He looked tired, but there was something calm about him. Something steady. He wasn't trying to impress anyone. Claire realized she liked that. The waitress brought his check. He paid without looking at it. Then he looked toward Claire again. She immediately looked down. She wasn't sure why. Maybe because she was embarrassed. Maybe because she had spent years around men who noticed her because of her appearance, her name, or her family's money. This man had no reason to notice her at all, which somehow made it worse. Claire picked up her wallet. She counted the bills. 10. 2. She counted them again. A voice came from across the diner. You're short. Claire looked up. The man was watching her. She frowned. Excuse me? He nodded toward the money. You're short. I'm not. He glanced at the check. Unless the diner changed its prices while I wasn't looking. Claire looked down, then back at him. I have enough. You have $12. She stiffened. How do you know that? You counted it 3 times. The boy started laughing. His father looked at him. What? She got caught. Claire almost smiled. Thank you. The father shrugged. Just an observation. I can pay. I didn't say you couldn't. He reached into his wallet. Claire immediately shook her head. No. He pulled out a $10 bill. It's fine. I don't need it. I know. That stopped her. He held the bill out. You can give it back tomorrow? I don't know you. Daniel? My bleen. What? My name. He smiled slightly. Daniel. The boy raised his hand. No. Claire smiled. Claire? Daniel nodded. Nice to meet you, Claire. She looked at the money, then at him. Why are you doing this? Daniel shrugged. Because you're short $10. That's it? That's it? You don't want anything? No. Not even an explanation. No. Claire studied him. Most people would ask. Most people probably have better things to do. The boy looked at his father. You don't. Daniel sighed. No. What? Eat your pancakes. No picked up his fork. Claire laughed quietly. Daniel looked at her. What? Nothing. He raised an eyebrow. You seem to laugh when you're uncomfortable. Claire froze. Do I?
Yeah?
That's interesting. I notice things. She smiled. So I've noticed. Daniel handed her the $10 bill. Loan? Claire hesitated. Then she took it. Loan. Deal. She put the money beside the check. Then something happened that caught her completely off guard. Daniel didn't ask what she did. He didn't ask where she lived. He didn't ask if she was married. He didn't ask why a woman sitting alone in a diner was apparently struggling to pay for breakfast. He simply returned to his pancakes. Claire stared at him. She had spent most of her adult life answering questions. Where did you go to school? Who was your father? What does your family own? Are you really the next heir? Are you dating anyone? Would your father invest in this? Could you introduce me to? Nobody ever seemed interested in Claire without the Bennett name attached. Daniel hadn't even asked her last name. And for some reason, that mattered. Claire paid the check. Then she stood. Thank you. Daniel nodded. Sure. I'll pay you back. I believe you. She looked at him. That's it? What else? I don't know. He smiled. You don't have to make everything complicated. Claire almost laughed. If you knew me, you'd know that's probably impossible. Daniel looked at her for a second. Maybe. She turned toward the door. Then Noah called after her. Claire. She looked back. He was holding a piece of bacon. Do you like bacon? She smiled. Yes. Good. He nodded. Then he turned to his father. Dad likes bacon too. Daniel looked embarrassed. Thank you for sharing that. Claire laughed.
Goodbye, Noah.
Oh yeah. She looked at Daniel. Goodbye. Take care. Claire walked outside. The morning air was cool. She stood beside her old blue sedan and looked back through the diner window. Daniel was helping Noah put on his jacket. The boy complained about something. Daniel said something she couldn't hear. Noah laughed. Claire smiled. Then her phone buzzed. She looked down. Fisa's dad as she stared at the name. Her smile disappeared. The phone buzzed again. And again. Finally, Claire answered. What? Edward Bennett's voice came through immediately. Claire, where are you? Somewhere. Don't do this. Do what? Disappear. I didn't disappear. You walked away from your family, changed your number, moved without telling anyone, and took a job. Claire looked back through the diner window. Daniel and Noah were gone. Yes. Her father exhaled sharply. We need to talk. We've talked. No, you've avoided me. Maybe there's a reason. Your mother is worried. Claire looked away. She'll survive. Claire. What? You can't keep pretending to be someone you're not. Claire's grip tightened around the phone. Maybe I spent my whole life pretending to be someone I'm not. There was silence. Then her father said quietly, Come home. Claire closed her eyes. I can't. You are the heir to this company. I don't want it. You don't get to simply walk away. Watch me. She ended the call. For several seconds, Claire stood beside her car. Then she looked toward the diner again. She thought about Daniel. The $10. The way he had helped without asking anything in return. The way Noah had laughed. The ordinary little moment she had almost missed because she was too busy worrying about a bill. Claire smiled faintly. She didn't know it yet, but that $10 loan would become the beginning of the most important relationship of her life. Because Daniel Carter was about to become the first man Claire Bennett ever loved without knowing she was Claire Bennett. And when he eventually discovered the truth, he would have to decide whether the woman he loved was real or whether she had been lying to him from the very beginning. If you're enjoying Claire and Daniel's story, stay with them. Because that simple breakfast is about to become the beginning of something neither of them is prepared for. Claire paid Daniel back the next morning. At least, that was the plan. She had put a $10 bill on the kitchen counter before leaving her apartment, along with a note. Thanks. For breakfast. Then she had stood there staring at the note for nearly a minute. It sounded too personal. She threw it away. She wrote another. Thank you. Claire, too formal. That one went into the trash too. Finally, she left the $10 bill on the counter and went to work. She had no idea when she would see Daniel again. That was probably for the best. She had already spent too much time thinking about him. And she had only known him for one breakfast. Claire's temporary job was at a small construction company called Carter & Sons. The name had nothing to do with Daniel. She wouldn't discover that until later. The company occupied a narrow brick building on the edge of an industrial district. There were trucks parked outside, stacks of lumber, metal pipes, men in work boots walking in and out with clipboards. Claire had been hired as an administrative assistant. It was not glamorous. It was also the first job she'd ever had where nobody knew she could call her father's office and have the entire building purchased before lunch. She liked that. Mostly. Her supervisor, Linda, handed her a stack of invoices. These need to be entered. Claire looked at them. Today, Linda smiled. Welcome to construction. Claire sat down. For the next 3 hours, she worked. At 11:30, she realized she was hungry. She checked her wallet. $2. She sighed. Then she remembered the $10 she had left for Daniel. She smiled. Apparently, she had successfully returned to poverty. At lunch, she bought a granola bar from a vending machine and ate it at her desk. Linda walked past. That's lunch. I'm watching my figure. Linda looked at the granola bar. That's not how you do it. Claire smiled. I'll remember that. At 1:30, the office door opened. A man walked in carrying a folder. Claire didn't look up immediately. She was typing an invoice. Then she heard a familiar voice. Linda, did the shipment from Hartford come in? Claire's fingers stopped. She looked up. Daniel. He was wearing a dark blue work jacket this time. His hair was slightly messy. There was dust on one shoulder. He looked like he had been working outside all morning. Claire stared at him. Daniel stared back. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Linda looked between them. You two know each other. Daniel smiled. We had breakfast. Claire immediately said, he loaned me $10. Linda blinked. Daniel laughed. You told her? Noob. She did. Claire looked at Linda. He's exaggerating. Daniel nodded toward her desk. What are you doing here? I work here. His expression changed. You work here? Yes. Since when? 3 weeks. He looked surprised. I didn't know. I didn't know you worked here. That's because I don't. Claire frowned. Then why are you here? Daniel lifted the folder. My company is handling the electrical and framing work on the Ravenwood project. Linda nodded. Daniel Carter. Claire looked at him. Carter? Yeah. You're Carter. That's usually how names work. She laughed. Sorry. Daniel looked at her desk, then at her. How much are they paying you? Claire's eyebrows lifted. That's none of your business. Fair. He smiled. Claire looked back at her computer. She could feel him still watching her. Do you always work this hard? Yes. Why? Because that's what people do at jobs. Daniel smiled. You really don't have to explain everything. Claire glanced at him. I've heard that before. Maybe you should listen. Linda called from across the office. Daniel, the delivery schedule. He turned. Right. He walked away. Claire watched him for half a second, then forced herself to look back at her screen. This was dangerous. She had already decided she liked him. Now she was going to see him every week. Maybe every day. That wasn't good. It was also not something she was willing to admit. Over the next month, Daniel became a regular presence at the office. Sometimes he came in for paperwork. Sometimes for permits. Sometimes because one of his crews needed something. And sometimes Claire suspected he came in because she was there. She didn't know if that was true. She didn't ask. Their conversations became longer. At first, they were harmless.
How's work, pussy?
How's Noah? Still negotiating with vegetables. Then they became personal. What do you do on weekends? Nothing. Nothing. Sometimes I clean. That's tragic. What do you do? Baseball with Noah. You like baseball? Noah likes baseball. That's not what I asked. Daniel smiled. Fine, I like it. Who do you support? Ravenwood Hawks. Why? Because I have bad judgment. Claire laughed. He looked pleased with himself. She liked making him smile. One Friday afternoon, the office was nearly empty. Claire was packing her bag when Daniel appeared at the door. You're leaving. Eventually. Want dinner. She stopped. What? Food. I know what dinner is. I wasn't sure. She smiled. We're. Nothing fancy. Good. There's a diner. Claire laughed. You're taking me to the diner. Why not? I've been there. I know. She looked at him. You know, Wes. How? I was there. Claire stared at him. Right. Daniel smiled. 7:30. She nodded. Okay. He walked away. Claire stood there for several seconds. Then Linda appeared behind her. You have that look. Claire turned. What look? The one women get when they are trying not to smile. I'm not smiling. You are. Claire picked up her purse. Good night, Linda. Linda laughed. 7:30. Claire looked back. What? Don't keep him waiting. At 7:28, Claire arrived. Daniel was already there. He stood when she walked in. You came? She looked at him. You invited me. I wasn't sure you'd say yes. Why? He shrugged. You seem like some who has a lot of reasons to say no. Claire sat down. You have no idea. Daniel smiled. I know. They ordered. For a while they talked about ordinary things. Noah's school. Claire's terrible parking. Daniel's truck. The weather. Work. Then Daniel asked, Where's your family? Claire looked at him. Why? You never talk about them. I don't like talking about them. Okay. He didn't ask again. Claire studied him. You really don't push. No. Why? Because if someone wants to tell me something, they'll tell me. She looked down. That's rare. Maybe. Their food arrived. Daniel cut Noah's pancakes for him earlier that morning, Claire remembered. Now he pushed the ketchup toward her without asking. It was such a small thing. But Claire noticed. She noticed everything about him. The way he listened. The way he never interrupted. The way he checked his phone every few minutes because Noah was staying with a neighbor. The way his face changed whenever he talked about his son. She wanted to know more. How long have you been raising him alone? Daniel's smile faded slightly. 3 years. What happened? My wife left. The Claire waited. She decided she didn't want the life anymore. That's awful. It was. Do you still talk? Sometimes. Does Noah? Daniel shook his head. Not much. Claire looked at him. Does he understand? More than people think. Daniel took a sip of coffee. He knows she left. That's hard. Yeah. He looked down. But he's okay. You sure? Daniel smiled faintly. I'm his dad. I'm legally required to say yes. Claire laughed. He laughed too. Then Daniel's expression became serious. I wasn't a great husband. The Claire didn't expect that. What do you mean? I worked too much. I was always tired. I thought providing money was enough. He looked at his hands. I was wrong. Claire didn't know what to say. She had spent her entire life surrounded by men who believed money could solve almost anything. Her father included. Daniel had learned the opposite. You're a good father, she said. He looked up. You don't know that. I've seen you with Noah. That's different. No. Claire shook her head. That's exactly what matters. Daniel looked at her for a long moment. You're different. Claire's heart skipped. Different how? You don't seem impressed by money. She almost laughed. If only he knew. I've seen what money does to people. Bad. Sometimes. He nodded. I've seen that too. There was something about the way he said it. Claire wondered whether he had ever crossed paths with people like her family. Then she remembered something. Daniel. Yeah. What does your company do? He smiled. Construction. Then, I know that. You asked. I mean, what kind? Commercial mostly. Some residential. Is it yours? Not entirely. What does that mean? My father started it. Claire looked surprised. You work with your father? No. She waited. My father died. Oh. Daniel nodded. 5 years ago. I'm sorry. Thanks. He looked down. I took over most of the company after he died. The Claire smiled. So you're the boss. Some days. And the rest. On those days just the guy everyone blames. She laughed. He smiled. The conversation continued. By the time they left the diner, it was nearly 9. They stood beside Claire's car. Daniel looked at it. Still running. Most days. That's encouraging. She smiled. Then he looked at her. Can I ask you something? Sure. Why are you really working here? Claire went still. She had been waiting for that question. Because I want to. That's not an answer. It's the only one I have. He nodded. Okay? She looked at him. You believe me. I believe that you don't want to talk about it. That answer stayed with her. Daniel opened his truck door. Good night, Claire. Good night. He got inside. Then he stopped. He rolled the window down. By the way, yes, you still owe me $10, Claire laughed. I paid you back? No. What? You didn't. I left it. At the diner. As I left it for you. Claire stared. Why, Daniel smiled. Because I didn't lend it to you because I wanted it back. Then he drove away. Claire stood beside her car. For several seconds, she didn't move. She had been offered expensive gifts her entire life. Jewelry, cars, vacations, houses. None of them had ever felt as meaningful as $10. Because Daniel hadn't given it to Claire Bennett. He had given it to a woman who needed help, and he hadn't wanted anything in return. Claire got into her car. Her phone rang before she could start the engine. She looked at the screen. Her father's assistant. She ignored it. A second call came. Then a message. As Mr. Bennett wants you at the family estate tomorrow morning. He says it concerns your inheritance. Claire stared at the message. Then she looked through the windshield. Daniel's truck had already disappeared. Her two worlds were beginning to move toward each other. And Claire had a feeling they were going to collide sooner than she expected. Claire spent most of Saturday morning sitting in her father's library, listening to a man explain why her own life was not actually hers. Edward Bennett stood beside the fireplace with his hands behind his back. He had always looked like that when he wanted to win an argument. Calm, controlled, certain. Claire sat across from him. I already told you, I'm not coming back. You don't understand what you're responsible for. I understand exactly what you're asking. You are the only heir. I know. Then act like it. Claire looked around the library. Nothing had changed. The dark wood shelves, the expensive paintings, the enormous windows overlooking the estate, the furniture that looked untouched because nobody actually lived with it. This had been home once. Now it felt like a museum. I don't want the company. Edward's jaw tightened. Your grandfather built it. And he built it for you. He built it for the family. Claire shook her head. No. He built it because he loved business. Her father stared at her. She continued. And then everyone decided the business was more important than the people. That's not fair. Neither was growing up in a house where everyone smiled at me because they knew my last name, Nam. Edward sighed. You're being dramatic. Claire laughed. Of course. She stood. Is that all? No. What now? He placed a folder on the desk. You've been seen working at a construction company. Claire went still. Who told you? It doesn't matter. It does to me? Edward ignored the question. You're working for a small contractor. Wes. Why? Because I want to? You have access to millions. That's exactly why I don't want them. He stared at her. Are you involved with someone there? Claire didn't answer. Edward's expression changed. Claire. She picked up her purse. I'm leaving. Is it the single father? She stopped. Her father's voice was quieter now. The man from the diner. Claire turned slowly. You had someone following me. You're my daughter. That's not an answer. I needed to know you were safe. You don't get to decide that. Edward looked frustrated. Men like him don't understand what your life is. Claire's expression hardened. You don't know anything about him. I know he's not equipped for it. Maybe he doesn't want it. Everyone wants something? Claire shook her head. That's your problem. What? You think everyone is like you. She walked toward the door. Behind her, Edward said, one day you'll regret this. Claire stopped. She didn't turn around. Maybe. Then she left. Daniel spent Saturday morning fixing a leaking pipe in his kitchen. He had been meaning to do it for 3 weeks. Noah sat on the counter eating cereal and watching. Are you sure you know what you're doing? Daniel tightened a wrench. No. Noah looked impressed. You're honest. I try. Water sprayed across the cabinet. Noah laughed. Daniel closed his eyes. Don't tell anyone. Especially Claire. Daniel looked at him. Why Claire? You like her? Daniel sighed. You're 8. And you're obvious. Daniel turned the water off. He stared at his son. Who taught you that word? No one. No one. You've been watching too much television. Noah shrugged. You should ask her out. Daniel froze. What? You already took her to dinner. That wasn't a date. Eat had food. That's not the definition of a date. Noah looked confused. Then what is? Daniel opened his mouth. Nothing came out. No smiled. Exactly. Daniel shook his head. Go get dressed. Why? We're going to the hardware store? Can Claire come? No. Why? Because she probably has better things to do. Noah frowned. Like what? Daniel thought about it. He didn't know. That bothered him. He knew Claire's favorite coffee. He knew she hated raisins. He knew she preferred old movies to new ones. He knew she got nervous when someone raised their voice. He knew she was surprisingly good with numbers. But he didn't know where she had grown up. He didn't know her family. He didn't know why she had so little. He didn't even know her last name. And somehow, that didn't feel right anymore. On Monday morning, Claire arrived at work early. Daniel was already there. He was standing near the reception desk with 2 coffees. He held one out. Thought you might want this. The Claire smiled. Thank you. He nodded. You okay? Fine. He looked at her. You sure? Less. Good. She took the coffee. Their fingers touched. Neither moved for a second. Then Daniel pulled his hand back. Busy day. Probably. He walked away. Claire watched him. Something had changed. Not dramatically. Not enough to name. But it was there. The comfortable distance between them had disappeared. They were becoming aware of each other. That was dangerous, and exciting, and terrifying. At lunch, Daniel stopped by her desk. No wants to see you. Claire smiled. Why? He has a school project. What kind? Family tree. Claire's smile faded slightly. Daniel noticed. You don't like family trees. Not really. Why? Complicated family. He nodded. Fair. Claire looked at him. Does he need help? Apparently. With what? I need someone to draw a tree. Claire laughed. That I can do. Daniel smiled. Come over tonight. She hesitated. Are you sure? Yes. What time? 6. Okay. He nodded, then walked away. Claire watched him go. She smiled. Then her phone vibrated. A message from an unknown number. You don't know who Daniel Carter really is. Claire stared at the screen. A second message appeared. Stay away from him. Her smile disappeared. She looked around the office. Nobody was watching. Who is this? No response. She called the number. It was blocked. Claire slipped the phone into her purse. For the first time since meeting Daniel, she felt uneasy. Not because she believed the message. Because somebody else knew about him. And apparently, somebody else knew about her too. That evening, Claire arrived at Daniel's house with a box of colored pencils. Noah opened the door. You came. Claire laughed. Apparently I'm helping with a tree. Good. Daniel appeared behind him. Hey. Hi. He looked at the box. What's that? Colored pencils. Noah already has colored pencils. I bought better ones. Daniel smiled. You're spoiling him. Claire looked at Noah. Probably? Noah grinned. Daniel stepped aside. Come in. The house was small, comfortable, a little messy. There were baseballs on a shelf, school papers on the refrigerator, a pair of shoes beside the couch. Claire loved it. It felt lived in. Real. No one had hired someone to make it look perfect. Noah spread his papers across the table. This is my family. Claire looked at the drawing. Noah, Daniel, his mother. Then a large empty space. Where's your mom? Claire asked carefully. Noah shrugged. She lives somewhere else. Daniel looked at him. Buddy? What? Maybe don't worry about that tonight. Noah nodded. Claire sat beside him. Who do you want on your tree? My dad. Obviously, you. Claire froze. Daniel looked up. No. What? Claire doesn't have to be on it. But she's family. Silence. Claire looked at Daniel. Daniel looked at his son, then at her. Noah didn't understand what he had just done. But Claire did. Her eyes filled with tears. She smiled at Noah. That's very sweet. He shrugged. I like you. Claire laughed softly. I like you too. Daniel sat across from them. For the next hour, they worked on the project. No drew badly. Claire pretended it was excellent. Daniel corrected his spelling. Noah complained. Claire laughed. It felt almost like a family. That thought frightened her. Because she wanted it. More than she wanted the company. More than she wanted the inheritance. More than she wanted to pre anything to her father. She wanted this. A small table. A tired man. A funny little boy. A life that didn't need security guards or private jets. A life where people knew her because she was there, not because of her name. Later, after Noah went to bed, Claire stood in the kitchen with Daniel. He was washing dishes. She dried them. You don't have to do that? I know. He smiled. You say that a lot. So do you. Fair. They worked quietly. Then Daniel spoke. I got a call today. Claire looked at him. About what? The company. What happened? One of our major clients is reconsidering our contract. The Claire's heart tightened. Why? I don't know. Could it be because of the economy? Maybe. He dried his hands. But it's strange. Claire looked away. Her father's words from Saturday returned. Men like him don't understand what your life is. Thus she wondered what Edward had done. She wanted to ask, but she was afraid of the answer. Daniel noticed her silence. Claire? Yeah. You seem distracted. I'm sorry. You don't have to apologize. She looked at him. I need to tell you something. Claire's heart pounded. She could finally say it. She could tell him everything. Who she was. Why she left. Why she was pretending. Why she had chosen this life. She opened her mouth. Then her phone rang. She looked down. Here's Dad. Bang, she rejected the call. Daniel noticed. Everything okay? Claire nodded. Yeah. He studied her. Then said quietly. You know you can tell me anything. The Claire looked at him. I know. And that was exactly why she was afraid. Because she wanted to. More than anything. But she wasn't ready to find out what would happen when the man she loved finally learned the truth. Outside, a car slowly passed Daniel's house. Claire didn't notice it. Daniel didn't either. But inside that car sat a man holding a photograph. A photograph of Claire. And beside it was another photograph, Daniel. The two images had been taken separately. Someone had deliberately put them together. And whoever was watching them had no intention of letting their relationship continue. Claire didn't sleep well that night. She kept thinking about the message. You don't know who Daniel Carter really is. It was probably nothing. A mistake. Someone playing a stupid game. Or maybe somebody from her father's office had decided to frighten her into coming home. She told herself all three possibilities were more likely than anything serious. Still, when she arrived at work the next morning, she checked the parking lot twice before getting out of her car. Daniel was already there. He stood beside a company truck, talking to one of the workers. When he noticed Claire, he smiled. That smile erased most of her worry. Morning. He held up a coffee. I guessed. Claire took it. How do you know my order? You've had the same thing every morning for 2 months. She looked at him. You noticed. Apparently. She smiled. Thank you. He nodded. Then his expression changed. You okay? Claire hesitated. Yes, you've said that 3 times. Maybe I'm trying to convince myself. Daniel studied her. Something happened. She almost told him. Instead, she shook her head. Nothing important. He didn't look convinced. But he didn't push. That was becoming one of the things Claire loved about him. He knew when to leave a door open. By lunchtime, the problem with Daniel's company had become worse. Linda came into Claire's office carrying a folder. Do you know anything about Carter Construction? Claire looked up. Daniel's company. Yes. What happened? Linda placed the folder on the desk. The Ravenwood development just suspended their contract. Claire frowned. Why? Apparently, the developer is conducting a review. That sounds serious. It is. Claire opened the folder. The project was worth several $1,000,000. If Carter Construction lost it, Daniel would have to lay off more workers. Maybe all of them. Claire's stomach tightened. Who owns the development? Linda glanced at the paperwork. Bennett Properties. Claire stopped breathing for a second. Her father's company, of course. She closed the folder. I have to make a call. Linda nodded. Everything okay? Yes. Claire walked into an empty conference room. She called her father. He answered immediately. I was expecting you. Did you cancel Daniel's contract? Silence. Then, you're involved with him. Answer me. Claire, you don't understand what you're doing. Did you cancel his contract? Yes. Claire closed her eyes. Why? Because he is becoming a problem. He has done nothing. He's taking you away from your family. You don't own me. I'm trying to protect you. By destroying his business. By making it clear that he has no place in your life. Claire's voice became cold. You have 10 minutes to restore that contract. Edward laughed. You don't give me orders. Then watch what happens. Claire. She hung up. Her hands were shaking. She had never spoken her father that way. Not once. But Daniel was different. She didn't know how to explain it. He had become important before she realized it. She walked back into the office. Daniel was standing near her desk. She froze. How long have you been there? Long enough. Her heart dropped. What did you hear? Enough. He looked at her. You know the people who own the project. Claire swallowed. Yes. How? I know a lot of people. That's not an answer. She looked away. Daniel's voice softened. Claire. She turned. Please. What? Don't lie to me. She stared at him. He wasn't angry. That made it worse. I didn't. You knew about the contract. I found out this morning. And you knew the developer was Bennett Properties. Claire couldn't speak. Daniel saw the hesitation. His expression changed. Claire. I was going to tell you. When? She looked at him. Soon. He laughed quietly. That's what people say when they don't know when. Daniel. He stepped closer. Are you connected to Bennett Holdings? Claire's heart pounded. She could tell him. She could end this. But fear stopped her. Not directly. It was the smallest possible lie. Daniel stared at her. Then he nodded. Okay? He walked away. Claire felt sick. She wanted to run after him. She didn't. That evening, Daniel didn't answer her calls. Claire sat on her couch staring at her phone. She had never been good at waiting. Her entire life had been built around getting answers immediately. Now she had none. At 9:30, someone knocked on her door. Claire froze. She hadn't ordered anything. She looked through the peephole. Nobody. She opened the door carefully. A small envelope sat on the floor. No name. No address. Just her initials. Ezra C.B.Z. Claire picked it up. Inside was a photograph. Her. Standing outside Daniel's house. Another photograph. Daniel walking Noah into school. Then a note. Walk away before someone gets hurt. Claire's hands went cold. She locked the door. Then she called Daniel. This time he answered. Claire. His voice sounded tired. Someone is watching us. Silence. What? I got photographs. Daniel sat up. Where are you? Home. Lock the door? It's locked. Don't open it for anyone. Claire looked toward the hallway. Daniel, what's happening? I don't know. Did you get anything? No. You need to check. I will. She could hear him moving around. Then Noah's voice in the background. Dad. I'm here. Daniel's voice softened. Claire closed her eyes. I'm scared. There was silence. Then Daniel said, I know. What do we do? We'll stay together. Claire's heart skipped. Together? Yeah. You were angry with me. I am. She swallowed. But I'm not leaving you alone with this. Claire sat down. For the first time that day, she felt like she could breathe. Then Daniel said something that made her heart stop again. I think this has something to do with your family. Claire didn't answer. Claire, she whispered. Maybe. Why? She looked at the photographs. Because I haven't told you everything. Daniel was silent. How much haven't you told me? Claire closed her eyes. Almost everything. The line went quiet. She expected anger. Instead, Daniel asked, Are you in danger? Claire looked at the photograph of herself. I don't know. Then we'll figure it out. Daniel, what? I love you. She hadn't planned to say it. It simply came out. Daniel didn't answer immediately. Then she heard him breathe. I love you too. Claire started crying, but the relief lasted only a few seconds. A loud crash came from Daniel's side of the phone. Claire sat upright. Daniel? 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 She heard Noah crying. Then Daniel shouted, Stay in the bedroom. Claire stood. What happened? The call suddenly ended. Claire stared at her phone. She called back. No answer. Again. Nothing. Claire grabbed her keys. She ran toward the door, then stopped. Her father's warning came back to her. You don't know who he is. And suddenly she understood something. Her father hadn't been the only person trying to separate them. Someone else was willing to frighten them. Maybe worse. Claire stepped outside. She didn't know who was watching. She didn't know why. But she knew one thing. Whatever happened next, she was done running. And for the first time, Claire Bennett was ready to use the power she had spent 6 months pretending she didn't have. Claire drove faster than she should have. Daniel's house was 12 minutes away. It felt like an hour. She kept calling him. Nothing. She called again. Straight to voicemail. Her hands tightened around the steering wheel. Then she saw the familiar dark pickup parked crookedly in Daniel's driveway. The front door was open. Claire slammed on the brakes. She ran inside. Daniel? No answer. Daniel? The house was quiet. Too quiet. A lamp had been knocked over in the living room. A chair was on its side. One of Noah's school books lay open on the floor. Claire's heart stopped. Then she heard a sound from upstairs. A door opening. She froze. Claire. Daniel. She ran toward the stairs. He came down holding Noah. The boy had tears running down his cheeks. Daniel had a small cut above his eyebrow. Claire stopped halfway up. Oh my God. We're okay. What happened? Daniel looked toward the front door. Someone came in. Claire's stomach dropped. Ooh. I don't know. Did you see them? Not clearly. He set Noah down. The boy immediately ran to Claire. She knelt and hugged him. I'm sorry. Noah buried his face against her shoulder. I was scared. I know. Daniel looked at Claire. How did you know to come? You called me? I don't remember calling. Claire pulled out her phone. You did. She showed him the call log. Daniel stared at it. I didn't. Claire's face went pale. What? I was upstairs with Noah. Then who called me? Neither of them spoke. Daniel walked toward the front door. He looked outside. Nothing. No cars. No people. Just the quiet street. Then he noticed something near the porch. A small black object. He picked it up. A phone. Claire recognized it immediately. It isn't yours. No. Daniel turned it over. There was no case, no identification. Just a cracked screen. Claire looked at him. Someone dropped it. Daniel nodded. Or left it. They went inside. Daniel locked every door. Then he checked the windows. Claire stayed beside Noah. The boy was calmer now, but his small hand was still gripping hers. Claire. She looked down. Yes. Are you going to leave? Her heart broke. No. Daniel looked at her. Their eyes met. Something changed between them. The fear was still there. The uncertainty. The secrets. But there was something else now. A decision. Neither of them was willing to walk away. Two police arrived 20 minutes later. 2 officers searched the house. They found no one. No major damage. No stolen property. Nothing obvious. The officer took the phone as evidence. Have either of you received threats? Claire looked at Daniel. Daniel looked at Claire. Finally, he said, she has. The officer turned toward her. Claire told him about the photographs, the anonymous messages, the warning. She left out her family's involvement. Not because she wanted to lie, because she wasn't sure what was connected. The officer wrote everything down. You should both be careful. Claire nodded. After the officers left, Daniel sat on the couch. Noah was asleep upstairs. Claire sat beside him. I'm sorry. Daniel looked at her. For what? For bringing this into your life. He shook his head. You didn't. I did. Someone else did. Claire stared at her hands. My family has enemies. Daniel was quiet. Your family? She looked at him. Yes. How much money does your family have? Claire swallowed. Daniel. How much? She looked away. Enough. He gave a short laugh. That's not an answer. No beau. He leaned forward. Then give me one. Claire couldn't. Not yet. Daniel rubbed his face. I need to understand what I'm dealing with. I know. Because somebody broke into my house. I know. And they scared my son. I know. He looked at her. So please stop protecting me from the truth. Claire's eyes filled. I've been trying to protect myself. Daniel went quiet. From finding out that you might not love me. He stared at her. Claire took a shaky breath. My whole life, people have wanted something from me. Money. And she nodded. Connections, business, status, access. Daniel looked confused. And you thought I would be like them? No. Then what? I thought you might become like them after you found out. He didn't answer. Claire reached into her purse. Her fingers touched the black credit card she had carried for months without using. She placed it on the table. Daniel looked at it. Then at her. What is that? My old life. He frowned. Claire. She took a breath. My full name is Claire Elizabeth Bennett. Daniel stared at her. She continued before she could lose her nerve. My father is Edward Bennett. Daniel's expression changed. The Edward Bennett. She nodded. The owner of Bennett Holdings. Daniel leaned back. Claire whispered, I'm his daughter. Silence. The room seemed to shrink. Daniel looked at the card, then at her. How much? Claire's eyes filled. Daniel, how much money do you have? I don't know. Give me a number. She looked down. More than I'll ever need. He laughed once. It wasn't cruel. It was disbelief. You've got to be kidding me. I wish I were. You told me you were broke. I never said that. You let me believe it. Yes. You worked for my company. Yes. You drove that terrible car. Yes. You worried about $10. Claire nodded. I was trying to live without my family's money. Daniel stood. So you were pretending. I was trying to be normal. You weren't normal. I know. He walked toward the window. Claire stayed seated. She didn't try to stop him. Finally, Daniel spoke. Does your father know about me? Yes. How? He had people watching me. Daniel turned. So he knows about Noah. Claire nodded. Daniel's jaw tightened. And the contract. My father canceled it. Daniel stared at her. You knew. I found out afterward. But you didn't tell me? No. He shook his head. Why? Because I was afraid. Off what? Off losing you. He looked away. Claire stood. I know I lied. Daniel said nothing. I know I should have told you. Still nothing. But everything between us was real. He finally looked at her. Was it? Claire's voice broke. Every moment. You weren't honest. No. So how am I supposed to know what was real? Because I never asked you for anything. You didn't have to. What does that mean? You could have changed my entire life without me knowing. Claire shook her head. I didn't want to. You could have bought my company. I know. You could have bought my house. I know. You could have paid every bill I've struggled with for years. I know. And you chose not to. Because I wanted you to love me. Daniel looked at her. That's exactly the problem. Claire went still. What? If I stay with you now, how do I know I'm not staying because of what you can give me? You wouldn't. You don't know that. I know you. Daniel shook his head. No. I thought I did. The words hurt. Claire wiped her tears. Then maybe you should get to know me again. Daniel didn't answer. She walked toward the door. Where are you going? Home. You shouldn't drive. I'll be fine. He looked like he wanted to stop her. He didn't. Claire opened the door. Before she stepped outside, Daniel said, Claire. She turned. I don't hate you. Her eyes filled again. But I don't know what I feel yet. She nodded. I understand. She left. Daniel stood at the window and watched her walk toward her car. For the first time since meeting Claire, he wasn't wondering whether she liked him. He was wondering whether the woman he loved had ever really existed. To the next morning, Claire woke up to 23 missed calls. Most were from her father. She ignored them. Then she opened her email. One message was from the board of Bennett Holdings. Cesanasi emergency meeting scheduled for 900 a.m. SARS, and another was from her father's attorney. SARS, your presence is required. Tasser. Claire stared at the screen. Then she saw one final message. No sender, no subject. Only a single sentence. But you should have told him sooner. See, Claire's blood ran cold. Someone had been watching her. Someone knew about Daniel. And now someone knew Daniel had discovered the truth. She picked up her phone. This time, she didn't call her father. She called a private security firm her family had used for years. She had spent 6 months trying to live like an ordinary woman. That was over. If someone was threatening Daniel and Noah because of her, she was going to find out who. And she was going to stop them. 3 hours later, Claire walked into Bennett Holdings for the first time in 6 months. The receptionist immediately stood. Miss Bennett. Claire kept walking. Employees turned to look. Whispers followed her through the lobby. For the first time, she wasn't trying to disappear. She entered the private elevator. When the doors closed, she looked at her reflection. Same face. Same woman. But something had changed. She had spent 6 months pretending she didn't have power. Now she finally understood what power was for. Not buying people. Not controlling them. Protecting the people she loved. And if you want to know whether Claire can save Daniel without destroying the life he's built, stay with the story. Because the truth is finally out, and now the real fight begins. Claire had forgotten what Bennett Holdings felt like. The marble floors. The glass walls. The quiet elevators. The employees who stopped talking whenever she walked past. 6 months ago, she had hated all of it. That morning, she understood why her father had always seemed so comfortable there. This place belonged to him. And, technically, it belonged to her. Claire stepped out of the elevator on the executive floor. Her father's assistant stood waiting. Mr. Bennett is in the boardroom. Of course he is. The assistant hesitated. Miss Bennett. Claire stopped. Yes. Are you all right? Claire almost smiled. I'm fine. The woman looked relieved. Then Claire added, but I don't think everyone else will be. She walked into the boardroom. Her father sat at the head of the table. 6 board members surrounded him. Claire's mother was there too. Edward looked at her. You came. You asked me to. You haven't answered any of my calls. I was busy. With him. Claire took the empty chair. With my life. Edward looked irritated. We need to discuss what happened. I already know what happened. You don't know everything? Then tell me. Edward glanced around the table. One of the board members cleared his throat. Perhaps we should discuss the succession issue first. Claire looked at him. What succession issue? Edward answered. Your grandfather's trust becomes fully accessible to you when you turn 30. I know. You have 6 months. I know. And you still intend to refuse control of the company. Claire leaned back. Yes. The room went quiet. Edward looked disappointed. You are throwing away a responsibility. New? Claire looked around the table. I'm refusing to let responsibility become an excuse for control. Her mother looked down. Edward's jaw tightened. Then Claire placed a folder on the table. I want the Ravenwood contract restored. Edward stared at her. No. Then I'll buy the development. Several people around the table looked up. Edward laughed. You don't have the authority. Claire smiled. Not yet. She pushed another document forward. My legal team has already prepared the acquisition structure. Edward's expression changed. You can't be serious. I am. Claire. I spent 6 months learning what your employees earn. Her father said nothing. I learned what contractors pay for materials. She continued. I learned what it means when a company loses one major contract. Then she looked directly at him. You canceled Daniel's contract because you thought you could scare him away. Edward's face hardened. And now you're using the company to protect him. No. Claire shook her head. I'm using my position to correct something you did wrong. Same thing. No. Her voice became firm. If I wanted to protect Daniel with money, I could have done that 6 months ago. She paused. I didn't. Edward looked away. Claire stood. I don't want your company. Then what do you want? She answered without hesitation. Control of my own life. Then she walked out. To Daniel spent the morning at the police station. He had barely slept. Noah was at school. For the first time since becoming a father, Daniel had considered keeping his son home indefinitely. The thought terrified him. His phone buzzed. A message from Claire. I need to see you. He stared at it. He didn't respond. Another message arrived. Astor says not to ask you to forgive me, just to explain. As Daniel put the phone away, he wasn't ready. At noon, his attorney called. Daniel? Yeah. We'll have a problem? Another one. The Ravenwood contract. What about it? The developer wants to reinstate your company. Daniel stopped. What? They sent a formal notice this morning. Ooh. Bennett Properties. Daniel closed his eyes. Of course. Claire, he called her. She answered immediately. Daniel, did you do this? Yes. His jaw tightened. I told you I don't want your money. This isn't a gift. It's your family. I know. You think changing a contract makes everything okay. No. Then why? Because you earned that contract. I don't want anything from you? I know. Then stop fixing my problems. Claire was silent. Finally, she said, I'm not fixing your problems. Then what are you doing? Trying to stop my family from creating them. Daniel had no answer. She continued, I can't undo what happened. No. But I can make sure they don't do it again. Daniel sat down. You don't understand. Then explain it. I don't want to become the man people say married into money. The Claire's heart tightened. You think I'd ever see you that way? I don't know. Daniel. I need time. She swallowed. Okay? I mean it. I know. They were quiet. Then Claire said, Can I still see Noah? Daniel closed his eyes. That question hurt more than anything else. He's asking about you. The Claire's voice broke. Can I see him? Yes. Daniel looked toward the school parking lot. Tomorrow. The Claire whispered. Thank you. He hung up. The next afternoon, Claire waited outside Noah's school. She had expected Daniel. Instead, Noah ran toward her. Claire. She crouched. He hugged her. She held him tightly. I missed you. I missed you too. Noah pulled back. Dad is mad at you. Claire smiled sadly. I know. Are you mad at him? No. Why? Because people get scared. Noah thought about it. Are you scared? Claire nodded. A little? Me too. She squeezed his hand. Then we're even. Noah smiled. They walked toward the car. Then Claire noticed a black sedan parked across the street. The same car she had seen outside Daniel's house. Her smile disappeared. Claire? Stay here. She moved slightly in front of Noah. The sedan started. Claire memorized the license plate. The car drove away. She immediately called security. Track this plate. She gave them the number. Then she called Daniel. He answered. What happened? Someone is following Noah. Silence. Are you sure? I saw the same car outside your house. Daniel's voice changed. Where are you? Outside his school? I'm coming. Don't? What? If they're watching, I don't want them seeing you rush here. Daniel went silent. Claire continued. Take Noah home through the back entrance. Claire, please. He hesitated. Okay, she hung up. Then she looked at Noah. Your dad is going to meet us somewhere else. Are we in trouble? Do she smiled. She smiled. We're just being careful. Okay. He trusted her. That trust made Claire more determined than ever. That evening, Claire sat in her father's office. Edward had finally agreed to meet her alone. You were followed. Claire nodded. Yes. By whom? I don't know yet. Edward looked concerned. Does Daniel know? Wes, you need to end this? Claire stared at him. No? Claire? No. Edward stood. You have no idea what you're dealing with. Then tell me. He hesitated. That hesitation told Claire everything. You know. Edward looked away. You know who's doing this? I know there are people who don't want you involved with that man. That's not what I asked. Edward said nothing. Claire stepped closer. Dad. He finally looked at her. Years ago, Bennett Holdings had a partner. A man named Victor Hale. Claire frowned. I've never heard of him. You wouldn't have. What happened? Edward's face tightened. He lost everything. Because of us. Because of his own decisions. Claire didn't believe him. What does he want? I don't know. You're lying. Edward sighed. Victor believes I destroyed his family. And did you? No. Claire watched him carefully. Then why are you afraid? Her father didn't answer. That was when Claire realized the problem was much bigger than her relationship with Daniel. Someone wasn't simply trying to separate them. Someone had been waiting for years. And somehow, Claire had just become the easiest way to hurt her father. 2. That night, Daniel stood in his kitchen after putting Noah to bed. He opened his laptop. He searched for Claire Bennett. For the first time, he allowed himself to see everything. Newspaper articles, business magazines, photographs, interviews. Claire standing beside her father at charity events. Claire receiving an award. Claire beside a private jet. Claire at a luxury resort. Claire smiling beside people whose names he recognized from television. Then he found something else. A photograph from 6 months earlier. The same day Claire had supposedly moved into her tiny apartment. The headline read, 6 Bennett Heiress walks away from family fortune. Daniel stared at the screen. The article explained that Claire had rejected an inheritance and disappeared from public life. He read every word. Then he stopped. Because one sentence changed everything. Sources close to the family say Claire left after a bitter dispute with her father over control of Bennett Holdings. Daniel leaned back. Maybe she hadn't been playing him. Maybe she had actually been running. His phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. Now you know who she is. As another message followed. Ask her what happened 6 months ago. And Daniel stared at the screen. Then another message appeared. He's asked her why she really left her family. Daniel looked toward the hallway where No slept. Then at Claire's name on his phone. He wanted to call her. But something stopped him. Not anger. Not distrust. Fear. Because he was beginning to realize that Claire's secret wasn't simply about money. There was something else. Something her family had hidden. And if he wanted to understand the woman he loved, he was going to have to uncover it. Before someone else decided to uncover it for him. Daniel didn't call Claire that night. He wanted to. Several times he picked up his phone. Several times he put it back down. The messages from the unknown number kept bothering him. Let's ask her why she really left her family. It was a simple question, but somehow Daniel knew the answer mattered. The next morning, he drove Noah to school. On the way, Noah was unusually quiet. Daniel glanced at him through the rearview mirror. You okay? Yeah. You sure? Noah shrugged, as Claire coming back. Daniel tightened his grip on the steering wheel. I don't know. Noah looked out the window. I think she will. Why? Because she said she wouldn't leave. Daniel didn't answer. Children had a way of making complicated things sound simple. Noah believed Claire. Daniel wanted to. That was the problem. Claire spent the morning in a conference room with 2 private investigators and her security director. A photograph of the black sedan was displayed on the screen. We traced the plate. The security director said. Claire leaned forward. And it belongs to a rental company. Who rented it? Someone used a prepaid account. Name? None. Claire frowned. What about the phone? We're still working on it. Can you trace the messages? Possibly. How long? Not long. Claire leaned back. She hated waiting. She had spent 6 months trying to escape the machinery of her family's world. Now she was using that same machinery to protect the people she loved. There was something bitterly ironic about it. Her security director placed another file on the table. We found something else. Claire opened it. A photograph. An older man. Gray hair, hard expression. She looked at the name underneath. Os Victor Hale, her father's former business partner. She remembered the name. Her grandfather had mentioned him once when Claire was young. Her father had always refused to discuss him. What's his connection to Daniel? We don't know yet. Claire looked up. Then find out. At 2:00 Daniel arrived at work and found his attorney waiting. You need to see this. He handed Daniel a document. Daniel read it. Then read it again. The Ravenwood contract is officially restored. Who signed this? The board of Bennett Properties. Daniel stared at the signature. Claire Bennett. He hadn't realized she had authority to do this. His attorney watched him. She's trying to help. Daniel folded the paper. I know. Then what's the problem? Daniel looked through the office window. The problem is that I don't know where helping ends and control begins. His attorney nodded. Fair. Daniel sighed. She gave up her inheritance. Apparently. Why would someone do that? Maybe because she loves you. Daniel looked at him. Don't. I'm just saying. Daniel shook his head. My life was simpler before her. His attorney smiled. Was it? Daniel thought about that. No, it wasn't. It had simply been smaller. He had spent years working, paying bills, raising Noah, and trying not to think about everything he had lost. Claire had changed that. She had made him want things again. A family, a future, something beyond survival. That scared him more than her money ever could. That afternoon, Daniel received a call. Hello, a man's voice answered. You've been asking questions. Daniel's expression hardened. Who is this? You don't need to know. Then why call? Because Claire Bennett is not what you think. Daniel stood. What do you want? Nothing from you. Then leave my family alone. The man laughed. You're already involved. Daniel's voice became cold. If you threaten my son again, I'll find you. You think Claire can protect you? Daniel said nothing. The man continued. Ask her about the warehouse. Daniel frowned. What warehouse? The line went dead. Daniel immediately called Claire. She answered. Daniel? What's the warehouse? Silence. That was enough. Claire, I need to see you. We're somewhere private. Come to my office. No. Why? Because if someone is watching you, they'll watch me. Daniel understood. Then where? I'll send you an address. But an hour later, they met at an old coffee shop on the outskirts of Ravenwood. It was nearly empty. Claire sat across from Daniel. Neither touched their coffee. What warehouse? He asked. Claire looked down. I knew this was coming. Coming from where? My family. Daniel waited. She took a breath. 6 years ago, my father owned a distribution company. What happened? There was a warehouse fired. Daniel frowned. People died. Knew. Claire shook her head. No one was supposed to be there. Supposed to be. It was after hours. She paused. My father had insurance. Daniel looked at her. You're saying he burned it down? No. I'm saying someone tried to make it look like he did. Daniel leaned forward. Why? Because the warehouse contained financial records. What kind? Claire lowered her voice. Records showing that someone inside the company had been stealing money. Daniel stared at her. Ooh, we never found out. What happened? The investigation disappeared. How? My father settled everything privately. Daniel shook his head. That sounds suspicious. It was. Why didn't you tell me? Because I was 12. Daniel stopped. 12? Claire nodded. I didn't understand most of it. She looked toward the window. But I remember my father coming home that night. What was he like? Terrified. Daniel frowned. Your father? Claire nodded. I had never seen him afraid before. She swallowed. He told my mother we were going away. Did you? For a while. Then what happened? Nothing. Nothing. Claire smiled sadly. That's the problem. Everyone pretended nothing happened. Daniel studied her. And Victor Hale. Claire looked at him. He was my father's business partner. What happened to him? He was blamed for the missing money. Was he guilty? I don't know. Daniel sat back. Your father blamed him. Wes. And Victor lost everything. Almost. Daniel stared at her. Why would he come after you now? I don't know. Daniel thought about the messages. The photographs. The break-in? Then something clicked. Maybe he isn't after you. Claire frowned. What do you mean? Maybe he's after your father. She looked at him. And we're just leverage. Claire went quiet. Daniel continued. Someone wants your family scared. Or wants them to pay. For what? We don't know. They sat in silence. Then Claire reached across the table. She touched his hand. Daniel looked down. I missed you. His expression softened. I missed you too. She swallowed. I know I don't deserve your trust yet. That's not what I said. I know. He turned his hand over and held hers. For several seconds, neither spoke. Then Daniel asked, Did you really mean it? What? When you said you loved me? Claire looked directly into his eyes. Yes. He nodded. I believe you. Her eyes filled. But I still don't know how to trust you. I know. Can we start there? Claire nodded. Yes. It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet. But it was something. That evening, Claire went back to her father's estate. She found Edward alone in his study. He was holding an old photograph. Claire recognized the people immediately. Her father, Victor Hale, and her grandfather. Why didn't you tell me? Edward looked up. About what? The warehouse. His face changed. Who told you? I found out. Claire, what really happened? Edward put the photograph down. You were a child. I'm not now. He looked exhausted. You don't know what you're asking. I know someone is threatening me. Edward stood. Then you need to leave Ravenwood. No. Go somewhere safe. I won't run again. You don't understand. Then explain it. He stared at her. Finally, he said, Victor wasn't responsible for the theft. Claire's eyes widened. What? He took the blame? Why? Because I asked him to. She stared at her father. Why would you do that? Because if the truth came out, your grandfather would have gone to prison. Claire's face went pale. What truth? Edward looked toward the window. The money wasn't stolen? Then where did it go? He didn't answer. Dad? He closed his eyes. It was moved. By who? Me. Claire stepped back. Why? Because your grandfather was laundering money through the company. Silence. Claire stared at him. Her entire understanding of her family shifted. You knew. I found out. And Victor. He helped me move the records. Then why did he lose everything? Edward looked at her. Because I betrayed him. Claire's eyes filled. Why? Because your grandfather threatened your mother. She couldn't speak. Edward continued. He said if I exposed him, he would destroy our family. Claire sat down. And Victor. I promised I would protect him. You didn't. No. Her father looked ashamed. I chose my family. Claire whispered, and Victor lost his. Edward nodded. Yes. The room was silent. Then Claire asked, is he alive? Yes. We're. I don't know. Claire stood. You've known this for years. Yes. You let me believe Victor was the villain. Edward looked away. I was ashamed. Claire shook her head. You weren't protecting me. I thought I was. You were protecting the family name. He didn't deny it. Claire walked toward the door. Then her father said, there's something else? She stopped. Edward looked at her. The warehouse wasn't the end. Claire turned. What do you mean? The night before the fire, Victor discovered someone else was moving money. Ooh, Edward's face went pale. We never found out. Claire waited. Then why are you afraid? Her father looked directly at her. Because I think that person has found us again. Claire's blood ran cold. And suddenly, the photographs, the messages, the break-in, and the warning all made sense. Someone wasn't simply trying to break Claire and Daniel apart. Someone was reopening a secret that had been buried for years. And Daniel was now standing directly in its path. Claire barely slept. Her father's confession kept replaying in her head. Victor Hale had not stolen the money. He had helped Edward. Then Edward had betrayed him. And somewhere in the middle of all that was another person. Someone who had moved money through Bennett Holdings. Someone her family had never identified. Someone who might now be targeting her. Claire sat at her kitchen table at 6 in the morning, staring at a cup of coffee she hadn't touched. Her phone rang. Daniel. She answered immediately. Are you okay? His voice was rough with sleep. I'm fine. That's not what I asked. Claire smiled faintly. Yes, I'm okay, good. A pause. Then Daniel said, was thinking. That's dangerous. He laughed softly. It was the first normal sound between them in days. I missed that. What? Your terrible jokes. They're not terrible. They're getting better. Thank you. That wasn't a compliment. She smiled. Then the smile faded. I found out what happened. Daniel became serious. With Victor. Wes, tell me. Claire explained everything. When she finished, Daniel was quiet. So your father betrayed him? Yes. And now Victor may be back, maybe. Daniel exhaled. That explains the messages. Not necessarily. Claire, I don't want to assume. Someone broke into my house. I know. Someone followed. No. I know. Someone has photographs of us. I know. Daniel's voice softened. And your father just admitted he betrayed a man who lost everything. Claire closed her eyes. I know. So maybe we should assume. She couldn't argue with that. You're right. Daniel paused. There's something else. What? I found something at the office. Claire straightened. What? A box. What kind? Old company records. Daniel hesitated. It has Victor Hale's name on it. Claire's heart began pounding. Where did you find it? Storage room. Why were you looking? I was looking for old contracts. Daniel, don't touch anything. I already did. Then don't touch it again. Too late. Claire heard papers moving. Daniel. I'm not going through it. I just noticed something. What? There are photographs. Of what? Your father. Claire's stomach tightened. Send me pictures. I will. A few seconds later, her phone buzzed. She opened the first photograph. Edward Bennett, standing outside a warehouse. The second showed Victor Hale. The third showed someone else. Claire zoomed in. Her breathing stopped. She knew the face. Daniel? Yeah. Who is that? I don't know. Claire stared at the photograph. The man standing beside Edward and Victor was younger, but unmistakable. Her father's former chief financial officer. Thomas Reed. She whispered his name. Daniel went quiet. Who is he? He worked for my grandfather. What happened to him? I don't know. Claire opened another photograph. There he was again. Then another. And another, always near the warehouse, always near Edward, always in the background. Daniel said, Claire? Thomas Reed. Was he involved? I don't know. Where is he now? Claire searched the name, her computer screen filled with old articles. Then she found it. Thomas Reed had left Bennett Holdings 7 years ago. No explanation. No public scandal. No retirement announcement. Nothing. Just gone. Claire called her security director. Find Thomas Reed. Yes, ma'am. I need everything. Understood. And do it quietly. Me too. Daniel arrived at Claire's apartment an hour later. He carried the old box. Claire looked at it. Put it on the table. Daniel did. Neither touched it. They stood across from each other. For a moment, the mystery disappeared. It was just Daniel, the man she loved, the man who still wasn't sure whether he could trust her. Claire looked at him. Thank you for coming. I wasn't going to stay home. Well, she smiled. Fair. He looked around the apartment. It's strange. What? Seeing where you've been living. Claire laughed. It's not that bad. I didn't say it was. You were thinking it. I was thinking you own a fortune and live in an apartment smaller than my garage. She smiled. I like it. Why? Because nobody knows who I am here. Daniel looked at her. I know. Claire's smile faded. Yes. He stepped closer. I know now. She swallowed. Are you sorry you found out? Daniel thought about it. I'm sorry you were afraid to tell me. That's fair. I'm not sorry I met you. Claire's eyes filled. Daniel? He stopped in front of her. I don't know what happens next. Neither do I. But I don't want to walk away. She looked at him. Why? Because I tried. He gave a small smile. It didn't work. Claire laughed through her tears. He reached for her hand. She let him. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't everything they had before. But it was enough for now. Then Daniel noticed something on the table. An envelope. Claire followed his gaze. What is that? I don't know. She picked it up. There was no name, no address. She opened it. Inside was a single photograph. Claire looked at it. Then her face went pale. It showed Daniel leaving his house. Noah was beside him. The photograph had been taken that morning. On the back was handwritten, Sir, you found the wrong man. Daniel read it. His expression hardened. What does that mean? Claire didn't answer. Her phone rang. Security. She answered. Hello, Miss Bennett, we found Thomas Reed. Claire's heart jumped. He owns a property outside Ravenwood. Address? She wrote it down. Then the security director said, There's a problem. What? The property has been abandoned for years. Claire frowned. Then how did you find him? We didn't. What? We found his name on a recent property transaction. Claire looked at Daniel. Someone bought the property last month. Ooh. There was a pause. Then Victor Hale. Claire stared at Daniel. He understood immediately. Victor is alive. Claire nodded. And he's back. They drove to the property together. Claire wanted security to come with them. Daniel insisted they wait. They agreed on a compromise. 2 security vehicles stayed several hundred yards behind them. The house stood at the end of a long dirt road. It was old, weathered, nearly hidden by trees. Daniel parked. Claire looked at him. Stay here. He shook his head. No, Daniel. I'm not letting you walk into that house alone. This isn't your fight. He looked at her. It became my fight when someone photographed my son. Claire couldn't argue. They approached the house. The front door was unlocked. Inside, everything was covered in dust. Old furniture, empty shelves, a dead fireplace. Claire called out, Victor. No answer. Daniel checked the hallway. Nothing. Then Claire noticed something on the wall. Photographs. Dozens of them. Edward, Victor, Thomas Reed, the warehouse. And Claire. Her blood ran cold. Daniel moved closer. How long has he been watching you? Claire shook her head. I don't know. Another photograph caught her attention. It showed Claire leaving the diner. The date was 6 months earlier. The day she first met Daniel. She looked at Daniel. He was watching me before I met you. Daniel stared at the photograph. Why? Claire didn't know. Then they heard footsteps upstairs. Both froze. Daniel whispered, "Someone's here." Claire reached for her phone. The footsteps stopped. Then a voice came from the hallway above them. "You should have stayed away." Claire looked up. A man appeared at the top of the stairs. Older. Gray hair. Lean face. Hard eyes. Claire recognized him immediately. Victor. He smiled. "You look just like your mother." Claire took a step forward. "Why are you doing this?" Victor looked at Daniel. "Because your father took everything from me." He admitted what happened. Victor laughed bitterly. Admitted. He descended the stairs. He admitted half the truth. Claire's stomach tightened. What did he hide? Victor stopped a few feet away. "Ask him who actually moved the money." We know about Thomas Reed." Victor's expression changed. "Then you know more than I expected. Was he the thief?" Victor shook his head. "No." "None who?" Victor looked at Claire. "Your grandfather." Claire froze. "My grandfather? Your father thought he was protecting his family." Victor's voice became bitter. "But your grandfather wasn't working alone." Daniel stepped forward. "Who was helping him?" Victor looked directly at him. "Thomas Reed." Claire's heart sank. "But you said he wasn't the thief." "He wasn't." "Then what was he?" Victor smiled without humor. "The man who cleaned up after them." Daniel frowned. "Meaning, money moved through shell companies. Accounts were created. Records disappeared." Victor looked at Claire. "And when your father discovered the truth, he tried to stop it. Then why did he betray you?" "Because Thomas gave him a choice." "What choice?" Victor's face hardened. "Protect your family." He looked at Claire. "Or let them destroy you." Claire's eyes filled. "What did Thomas threaten?" Victor didn't answer. Then a sound came from outside. A car engine. Victor looked toward the window. His expression changed instantly. "You're not alone." Claire turned. 2 black vehicles were approaching the house. Her security team. Victor stepped back. "Too late." Daniel looked at him. "What?" Victor reached into his coat. Claire stiffened. But instead of a weapon, he pulled out a small envelope. He handed it to her. "Give this to your father." Claire took it. "What is it?" "Proof." "Proof? Proof of what?" "Who really ordered the warehouse fire?" Claire stared at him. "Who?" Victor looked at her. Then he glanced toward Daniel. "The person who has been watching you isn't trying to hurt you." Claire frowned. "Then what do they want?" Victor's expression became grim. "They want you to find the truth." Before Claire could respond, Victor walked toward the back door. "Wait." He stopped. "Why did you bring Daniel into this?" Victor looked over his shoulder. "I didn't." Then he disappeared. Claire stood frozen. Daniel looked at her. Then who did? Neither knew. But Claire looked down at the envelope in her hand. For 6 months, she had believed her greatest secret was her family's wealth. She had been wrong. The real secret was far older, and whatever was inside that envelope was about to change everything she thought she knew about her family. Claire didn't open the envelope. Not in the car. Not at the security office. Not even when she returned to her apartment. She carried it into her father's house the next morning and placed it on his desk. Edward looked at it. His face changed immediately. "Where did you get that?" "Victor." Her father sat down. "You found him?"
"Yes."
"Where?" "An old property outside Ravenwood." Edward stared at the envelope. "What did he say?" "That you never told me the whole truth." Edward closed his eyes. Claire's voice hardened. "What is inside?" "I don't know." "Then open it." Edward didn't move. "Dad." He finally reached for the envelope. Inside was a small flash drive and several printed documents. Edward looked at the first page. His hands began to shake. Claire noticed. "What is it?" He didn't answer. She took the document. It was a transaction record. Bennett Holdings. 6 years earlier, millions of dollars had been transferred through several shell companies. Claire looked at the final signature. Thomas Reed. She turned the page. Another transaction. Then another. Her father's name appeared on none of them. Thomas did it. Edward nodded. Yes? You knew. I suspected. That's not the same thing. I couldn't prove it. Claire looked at the documents. Victor said there was someone else. There was. Who? Edward didn't answer. Claire slammed the papers onto the desk. You don't get to do this anymore. Her father looked at her. Do what? Protect me with half-truths. He stared at her. I was trying to keep you safe. You failed. The words hung between them. Edward looked down. Claire softened slightly. What happened the night of the fire? He took a long breath. Thomas had been moving money for years. Your money. Your grandfather's. Why? Greed. Claire shook her head. And Victor? Victor discovered it. Then why did everyone think he was guilty? Because Thomas made sure the evidence pointed toward him. Claire looked at the documents. And you let it happen. I tried to stop it. How? I confronted Thomas. What did he do? Edward's face went pale. He threatened you. Claire froze. Me. You were 12. What did he say? He said if I went to the police, you would disappear. Claire felt sick. Who was he threatening to? I didn't know. What does that mean? Edward looked at her. Thomas had people working for him. Claire stared. We never found out. She picked up the flash drive. What is on this? Everything Victor collected. Then we're going to see. They took the drive to a secure room at Bennett Holdings. Claire's security team copied the files onto an isolated computer. Daniel arrived 20 minutes later. Claire looked at him. You didn't have to come. I know. He smiled faintly. I'm getting good at ignoring that sentence. She almost laughed. It felt good. For a few seconds, everything was normal again. Then the first file opened. A spreadsheet. Dates. Accounts. Transfers names. Daniel leaned closer. Claire followed his finger. One account appeared repeatedly. S. Hale Family Trust, S. She frowned. That's Victor. No. Daniel pointed at the dates. The transfers happened after Victor supposedly lost everything. Claire stared. Someone was still moving money through his name. Her father stood behind them. That's impossible. Daniel looked at him. Not if Victor was being framed. Edward went silent. The next file opened. A series of emails. Thomas Reed communicating with someone whose identity had been erased. The messages were short. The transfer is complete. Dosix Hale will take the blames. Bennett knows too much. Dosimer then, one final message. Does the girl must never know. Claire stopped breathing. Daniel looked at her. Claire. She couldn't speak. She opened another file. A photograph appeared. It showed Thomas Reed standing beside another man. Claire recognized him. She had seen him hundreds of times growing up. Her grandfather's longtime attorney. Richard Moore. She whispered. That's Richard. Edward stepped forward. No. You know him. He was your grandfather's attorney. And Thomas worked with him. Edward stared at the screen. Richard Moore had died 3 years earlier. But the photograph had been taken only 2 months before. Claire looked at her father. He's alive. Edward's face went white. No. The security director entered the room. Miss Bennett. Claire turned. We have a problem? What? Someone accessed the company's internal network. Woo. We don't know. When? 10 minutes ago. Claire looked at Daniel. The room suddenly felt very cold. Can they access these files? They already tried. Did they get in? No. Why? Because we isolated the computer. Daniel looked toward the door. Then they know we're here. Claire nodded. A second later, every light in the building went out. The room fell into darkness. Someone shouted in the hallway. Then came the sound of an alarm. Daniel reached for Claire. Stay behind me. She grabbed his arm. I'm not helpless. I know. Then don't treat me like I am. He smiled faintly. Fine. A security guard rushed into the room. Miss Bennett, we need to move. The Claire looked at the screen. The files were still open. She grabbed the flash drive. Let's go. They moved through the emergency stairwell. Daniel stayed beside Claire. The security team surrounded them. When they reached the underground parking garage, they stopped. A black SUV was waiting. The driver's door opened. Claire stepped back. A man got out. Thomas Reed. Older than the photograph, but unmistakable. Daniel moved in front of Claire. Thomas raised both hands. I'm not here to hurt you. Claire stared at him. You've been watching me? Les. You sent them messages. Some of them. Why? Because I needed you to look. Claire's anger rose. You terrified my family. I needed you afraid enough to stop trusting your father. Daniel stepped forward. You broke into my house. I didn't. You followed my son? No. Then who did? Thomas looked at Claire. Richard. The Claire's stomach tightened. He's alive. Thomas nodded. He never died. Where is he? Thomas shook his head. I don't know. You're lying. No. Thomas looked exhausted. I've spent 6 years trying to expose him. Then why frame Victor? I didn't. Who did? Richard. The Claire stared. Thomas continued. Your grandfather built a criminal network inside Bennett Holdings. Richard managed it. Edward stepped forward. That's impossible. Thomas looked at him. You knew. I suspected. You always suspected. Thomas laughed bitterly. That's why I stopped trusting you. Edward's face hardened. You destroyed Victor. I tried to protect myself. You let an innocent man lose everything. Thomas looked at Claire. I made mistakes. That's not an excuse? No. He lowered his head. It isn't. Claire stared at him. Then why help me now? Thomas looked directly at her. Because Richard has started moving money again. Where? Through Bennett Holdings. Claire's eyes widened. How? Thomas gave her a name. A current executive. One of the people sitting on the board that morning. Claire immediately understood. Someone inside the company was still working for Richard. And that person had access to everything. Including her. Including Daniel. Including Noah. Thomas looked toward the entrance. We don't have much time. What are you talking about? Richard knows I contacted you. Daniel stepped closer. Where is he? I don't know. Then how do we find him? Thomas looked at Claire. Your grandfather kept records. Where? In the one place nobody ever searched. The Claire waited. Where? Thomas answered. Your old family home. The Claire frowned. My grandfather's estate. No. He shook his head. The house where your mother grew up. Claire's expression changed. She had never been there. Her mother had always refused to discuss it. Thomas reached into his coat and handed Claire another photograph. It showed a small farmhouse. On the back was an address. Claire looked at it, then at Daniel. This is where my mother grew up. Thomas nodded. Richard used it as a meeting place. Claire folded the photograph. Why tell me? Thomas looked toward the darkness beyond the garage. Because Richard isn't after your money. The Claire's heart sank. Then what does he want? Thomas looked at her. He wants what your grandfather left behind. What? The original records. Claire stared at him. What records? Thomas's voice dropped. The ones proving exactly how the Bennett fortune was built. Silence. Daniel looked at Claire. She suddenly understood. Her family's wealth wasn't simply a fortune. It might be evidence. Evidence that could destroy everything. Thomas stepped backward. Go to the house. With you. No. Why? Because I'm going to make sure Richard follows me instead. Before Claire could stop him, Thomas turned and disappeared into the darkness. Daniel watched him go. Do you trust him? Claire shook her head. No. Good. She looked down at the photograph. But I think we need to find that house. Daniel nodded. Then we go together. Claire looked at him. Daniel, if this goes wrong, it won't. You don't know that? New. He took her hand. But I'm done letting fear decide where we go. Claire squeezed his fingers. For the first time since the truth had come out, she felt something she hadn't expected. Not certainty. Not safety. Hope. They had started with $10 and a breakfast. Now they were standing in an underground garage, holding evidence that could destroy Claire's family. And somewhere in Ravenwood, a man who had been hiding for years was waiting for them to uncover the truth. Neither Claire nor Daniel knew that the next place they were going would force Claire to make a choice far more painful than giving up her inheritance. She would have to decide whether protecting the man she loved meant sacrificing the family she had spent her entire life trying to understand. The farmhouse stood nearly 40 minutes outside Ravenwood. Claire had never seen it before. That was strange. Her mother had grown up there. Her grandparents had lived there. Yet Claire had spent her entire childhood hearing about every Bennett property except this one. Daniel parked beside the old wooden fence. Claire stared through the windshield. Something's wrong. Daniel looked at her. What? My mother never brought me here. Maybe she didn't want to. Why? I don't know. Claire looked at the farmhouse. The windows were boarded. The paint had almost completely disappeared. A porch leaned slightly to one side. It looked abandoned, but Claire knew better. Richard Moore had used this place, and someone had been here recently. There were fresh tire tracks in the mud. Daniel noticed them too. Someone's been here. Claire nodded. Stay close. They got out. Daniel reached into his truck. Claire raised an eyebrow. What? Flashlight. You carry one? I have a son, she smiled. Fair. They walked toward the house. The front door was locked. Daniel tried the handle. Nothing. Claire noticed a broken window beside it. Someone already got inside. They entered carefully. Dust covered almost everything. Old furniture sat beneath white sheets. A grandfather clock stood against one wall. The air smelled damp. Claire walked slowly through the living room. I've never been here. Daniel looked at the photographs hanging on the wall. You sure? Yes. He pointed. That's your mother. The Claire looked. A young woman stood beside an older man. Her mother. She had never seen that photograph. Claire touched the frame. She looks happy. Daniel nodded. She does. Claire looked at the man beside her. That's my grandfather. She stared at him. Something about this place feels wrong. Daniel looked around. Why? Because everything is still here. Old photographs, books, furniture, personal belongings. It was as if someone had simply walked out one afternoon and never returned. They searched room by room. Nothing. Then Claire noticed a small wooden box on a desk. She opened it. Inside was an old key and a note. S for Claire, when she's old enough to understand. S. Her hands trembled. Daniel stepped closer. That's your name. She nodded. She opened the note. The handwriting belonged to her grandfather. Claire read silently. Then her face changed. What does it say? She handed it to Daniel. The note was short. S. Claire, if you're reading this, your father has finally told you enough to make you dangerous. Do not trust anyone who says the Bennett fortune was built honestly. The records are hidden where the family began. Your mother knows where to look. Said Daniel looked up. Your mother. The Claire nodded. But she never told me. Maybe she didn't know. She knew something. Daniel looked at the key. What does that open? Claire looked around. I don't know. They continued searching. The key didn't fit any door. Not the bedrooms. Not the basement. Not the cabinets. Then Daniel noticed something. Claire. She turned. He was standing beside the grandfather clock. There are scratches. We're behind it. They moved the clock. A narrow wooden panel appeared in the wall. Claire stared. That's not normal. Daniel smiled faintly. Rich families apparently hide things better than normal families. She pushed the panel. It opened. Behind it was a narrow staircase leading downward. Claire looked at Daniel. You first. He laughed.
Why me?
You're bigger. That's your reason. Yes. He shook his head. Fair. They descended. At the bottom was a small room. Shelves covered the walls. Boxes filled the floor. Documents, ledgers, photographs, old computer drives. Claire stepped inside. Oh my God. Daniel picked up a ledger. These are old. How old? 20 years. Maybe more. Claire looked at the shelves. These are the original records. Daniel nodded. Your grandfather kept everything. Claire opened one of the ledgers. She recognized company names, accounts, transfers, payments. Then she found something that made her stomach drop. A list of properties. Beside each property was a name. Some were familiar, some weren't. Then she saw one name repeatedly. Sis Richard Moore. Sis Claire looked at Daniel. He wasn't just the family attorney. No, he owned these companies. Daniel turned another page. Look, a series of payments led directly from Bennett Holdings to accounts controlled by Richard. Millions. Claire stared. Then she saw the dates. They continued long after her grandfather's death. Her father had not been the one controlling everything. Richard had. But that wasn't the worst part. Claire turned another page. Her own name was there. Claire Bennett, beneficiary. She frowned. What? Daniel looked. Why is your name on these accounts? I don't know. They searched further. There were payments made into a trust under Claire's name. The amounts were enormous. Daniel looked at her. Your inheritance. The Claire shook her head. Nope. What? My inheritance came from my grandfather. Yes. But these payments started before I was born. Daniel stared at the records. Then your grandfather was building your inheritance before you existed. The Claire felt sick. Why? She turned another page. There was a handwritten note. Esther, the child, will inherit everything when the time comes. Esther's Claire whispered, my grandfather planned this. Apparently. Why? Daniel didn't answer. Then they heard something upstairs. A door slammed. Both froze. Someone was inside the house. Daniel turned off his flashlight. Stay here. Claire grabbed his arm. No. Claire, I'm not hiding. He looked at her, then nodded. They climbed the stairs quietly. The farmhouse was dark. No footsteps. No voices. Daniel moved toward the front room. Claired. The front door was open. Nobody was there. Then Claire noticed the photograph on the wall. It had been moved. Behind it was another note. She picked it up. Only 4 words. You were never the target. Claire's stomach tightened. She looked at Daniel. What does that mean? He didn't answer. A sound came from outside. An engine. They rushed to the window. A dark SUV was driving away. Daniel ran toward the door. Daniel, wait. He stopped. Why? The Claire pointed toward the road. Look, a second vehicle was parked farther away. An old sedan. The driver's door opened. A woman stepped out. Claire stared. She knew her. Her mother. Mom. The woman walked toward the farmhouse. Claire ran outside. Mom. Her mother stopped. For a moment, neither moved. Then she looked at Daniel. Her expression changed. You're Daniel. He nodded. Claire's mother looked back at her daughter. I told your father this would happen. The Claire frowned. What would happen? That you'd find the house. What is going on? Her mother looked toward the farmhouse. Your grandfather wasn't protecting the company. The Claire's heart sank. Then what was he protecting? Her mother swallowed. Claire stared at her. From what? Her mother stepped closer. From the people who built the fortune. Claire looked confused. My grandfather. Her mother shook her head. No. Then who? Her mother looked at Daniel. Then back at Claire. The Bennett fortune was built through a secret investment network. The Claire frowned. What kind of network? One that never officially existed. Daniel stepped closer. Who ran it? Her mother hesitated. Your grandfather was only one of several people. Claire felt dizzy. Who were the others? Her mother looked toward the road. Richard Moore. Claire nodded. We know. Her mother shook her head. You don't understand. What? Richard wasn't the leader. Silence. Claire stared at her. Then who was? Her mother's eyes filled with fear. Your grandfather's father. Claire froze. My great-grandfather. He started everything. Daniel looked confused. But he's been dead for decades. Less. Then how does that matter now? Her mother took a breath. Because he created something that survived him. Claire's voice was barely audible. What? A private trust. Daniel looked at Claire. Her mother continued. It controls pieces of companies, properties, accounts, and investments all over the country. Claire shook her head. How much? Her mother looked at her. More than your father knows. Claire felt the ground shift beneath her. Then who controls it? Her mother didn't answer. Claire stepped closer. Mom. Her mother whispered. You do. Silence. Claire stared at her. What? The trust was created for you. Why? Because your great-grandfather believed one day the family would destroy itself. Claire couldn't speak. Her mother took her hand. He believed the only person who could break the cycle would be someone who didn't want the power. Claire looked toward the farmhouse. The old documents. The hidden records. The secret accounts. Everything suddenly made sense. Her great-grandfather had created a fortune within the fortune. And Claire had been chosen to inherit it. Not because she was the most powerful member of the family. Because she was the one least interested in power. Daniel took Claire's hand. She looked at him. I don't want this. I know. What if I can't get rid of it? You don't have to decide tonight. Her mother looked at Daniel. You need to understand something. Daniel nodded. What? If Claire takes control of the trust, everyone who has been stealing from it will lose everything. Daniel understood. Which means they'll come after her. Her mother nodded. Yes. Claire looked toward the dark road. That's why someone has been watching me. Her mother squeezed her hand. Yes. And the break-in. Probably. The messages? Maybe. The person following Noah. Her mother looked horrified. I don't know. Claire's expression hardened. Then I need to know. Her mother nodded. I came here because I found something. What? She reached into her purse. She pulled out an old photograph. Claire took it. It showed her great-grandfather standing beside several men. Richard was there. Thomas was there. Her grandfather was there, and one other man. Claire recognized him immediately. She had seen his photograph that morning. But this time, the name underneath was different. Not Victor Hale. Not Thomas Reed. Not Richard Moore. It was someone Claire knew personally. Someone she had trusted for years. Someone who had been sitting beside her father at the board meeting. Claire's face went pale. That's impossible. Daniel looked at the photograph. Who is it? Claire whispered the name. And suddenly, she understood why someone had wanted her to believe the enemy was outside her family. The person they were looking for had been inside Bennett Holdings all along. And he knew exactly where Claire would be next. Claire stared at the photograph. She couldn't make herself say his name again. Daniel took the picture from her hand. He looked at it. Then at Claire. Who is he? Claire swallowed. Richard Bennett. Daniel frowned. Bennett. My father's cousin. Your family. Yes. Daniel looked back at the photograph. The man standing beside Claire's great-grandfather was older in the picture, but the resemblance was unmistakable. Richard Bennett. For years, he had been one of the most trusted people in the company. He had attended family dinners, board meetings, charity events. Claire remembered him bringing her birthday presents when she was a child. He had always been kind to her, always patient, always telling her that she would make a wonderful leader one day. Now she wondered whether every word had been a lie. Her mother spoke quietly. Richard was your grandfather's favorite. Claire looked at her. Then why didn't anyone suspect him? Because nobody wanted to. Daniel asked, what did he do? Her mother shook her head. He understood how the trust worked. What trust? The one your great-grandfather created. Claire looked at the photograph again. Richard knew about it. Less. And he has been stealing from it. Her mother nodded. For years. Claire felt sick. How much? We don't know. Millions? Probably. Billions? Her mother hesitated. Possibly. Claire looked away. The amount almost didn't matter anymore. She had spent her whole life believing the family's wealth was simply enormous. Now she was discovering that even her family didn't know how enormous it really was. Daniel looked at Claire. What happens if Richard finds out you know? He already knows. Her mother looked at her. That's why I came. Claire's eyes narrowed. How did you find out? Her mother hesitated. I received a letter. From who? Your great-grandfather. Claire stared. He's been dead for 30 years. I know. Then how? Her mother pulled another envelope from her purse. This arrived 2 weeks ago. Claire took it. The handwriting matched the note from the farmhouse. She opened it. Inside was a single page. The trust belongs to Claire. A 6 below that was another sentence. But she must never take control until she knows who wants it most. Claire read it twice. Daniel leaned over her shoulder. Who wants it most? Her mother looked toward the road. Richard. Claire shook her head. No. What? If Richard wanted the trust, why hasn't he taken it? Her mother didn't answer. Claire thought. Then she understood. Because he can't. Daniel looked at her. Why? Because the trust has conditions. Her mother nodded. Your great-grandfather designed it that way. Claire looked at the letter again. What conditions? Claire must personally accept control. That's it. No. Her mother hesitated. She must also prove that she isn't accepting it for personal wealth. Daniel frowned. How? She has to give away a portion of it. Claire stared. How much? Half. Silence. Daniel looked at Claire. She almost laughed. Half? Her mother nodded. Half the trust must be placed into charitable foundations before Claire can control the remaining assets. Claire looked down at the letter. Suddenly, everything made sense. Her great-grandfather had known exactly what kind of family he had created. He had built a fortune, then built a trap to stop his descendants from becoming controlled by it. Claire whispered. He knew. Her mother nodded. He knew someone would eventually try to take it. Richard. Yes. Claire folded the letter. Then why is he waiting? Her mother looked at her. Because he needs you. Claire frowned. Why? Because only you can unlock the trust. Daniel's expression hardened. So Richard needs Claire alive. Her mother nodded. Yes. Claire looked toward the farmhouse. But someone attacked Daniel's house. To scare you. Someone followed No. To make you understand what they can reach. Claire's face hardened. They're trying to force me to accept the trust. Daniel shook his head. Or they're trying to force you to give them access. Claire looked at him. Exactly. The three of them stood silently. Then Daniel's phone rang. He checked the screen. His face changed. What's wrong? He answered. Hello. A man's voice came through. Daniel's expression hardened. Who is this? Claire watched him. Then Daniel put the phone on speaker. The voice was calm, almost polite. Daniel Carter. Who are you? You've become inconvenient. Claire's heart dropped. The man continued. You should never have involved yourself with Claire. Daniel stepped forward. You threatened my son. I warned you. Where is Noah? Claire froze. Daniel's face went white. What did you say? You should listen carefully. Daniel looked at Claire. Noah is safe. Where is he? With someone you trust. Daniel's voice became dangerous. If you touch him, I won't. The caller paused. Not unless you force me to. Claire stepped closer. Who is this? The man laughed softly. You know me, Claire. She stared at the phone. Richard. Good. Her mother covered her mouth. Claire's voice was steady. What do you want? You know what I want. The trust. Exactly. You can't access it? No. Richard's voice remained calm. But you can. Claire looked at Daniel. What happens if I refuse? You lose something. What? Someone. The call ended. Daniel immediately called Noah's school. No answer. He called the neighbor. No answer. Then his phone rang again. This time it was the police. Daniel answered. His face changed. What? Claire watched him. Say that again. He listened. Then slowly lowered the phone. What happened? No never arrived at school. Claire's stomach dropped. Daniel stared at her. He's gone. Everything happened quickly after that. Police, security, phone calls, cameras, traffic footage. Daniel barely spoke. He moved like a machine. Claire stayed beside him. Her security director arrived with a team. We're pulling every traffic camera around the school. Do it. Already started. Find the car. Wes. Daniel looked at Claire. This is my fault. No. I brought him into this. No. I should have. Claire grabbed his hands. Daniel. He looked at her. We're getting him back. His eyes filled. You don't know that. I do. How? Because I'm not giving them what they want. Daniel looked at her. What are you going to do? Claire pulled out the letter. I'm going to accept the trust. Her mother stared at her. You can't. Why? You don't know what you're accepting. I know exactly what I'm accepting. Claire, if the trust is what they want, I'll give it to them. Daniel shook his head. No. She turned toward him. They have Noah. That's exactly why you can't do this. What choice do I have? Don't sacrifice yourself. Claire's eyes filled. He's your son. I know. He's the closest thing I've ever had to a family. Daniel looked at her. Claire. She stepped closer. I love him. Daniel closed his eyes. I know. And I love you. He opened his eyes. Don't make this decision because of me. I'm making it because of Noah. Her mother looked at the letter. There may be another way. Claire turned. What? The trust has a protection clause. What protection clause? If the heir is forced to activate it under threat, the trust becomes inaccessible for 10 years. Claire stared. Then Richard loses everything. Less. Claire's eyes widened. Then that's it. Daniel looked confused. What? If I activate it because they're threatening Noah, Richard gets nothing. Her mother nodded. But you lose access too. Claire didn't hesitate. I don't care. Daniel stared at her. You'd give up billions? Just like that. Claire looked at him. I already gave up billions once. She smiled sadly. I can do it again. Her mother began to cry. You really are your great-grandfather's granddaughter. Claire looked at her. No. She shook her head. I'm my own person. Then the security director rushed into the room. We found the vehicle. Everyone turned. We're? Old Industrial District. Daniel grabbed his jacket. I'm going. Claire followed. Her mother caught her arm. Claire. She turned. Be careful. Claire nodded. Then she looked at Daniel. He was already moving toward the door. She caught up. They got into the car. Neither spoke for several minutes. Finally, Daniel said, If we get Noah back? Claire looked at him. What? I don't care about the money. She smiled faintly. I know. I don't care about your family. I know. I don't care if you're a billionaire. She looked at him. What do you care about? Daniel took her hand. You. Claire squeezed his fingers. Then her phone rang. A message appeared. The Sers come alone das below it was an address. And a photograph. Noah. Sitting inside an empty warehouse. Claire's blood ran cold. Daniel looked at the screen. We're going. Claire nodded. The car turned toward the industrial district. Neither of them knew what waited inside that warehouse. But Claire knew one thing. For the first time in her life, she wasn't choosing between money and love. She was choosing love without hesitation. And if saving Noah meant walking away from the greatest fortune her family had ever controlled, she was prepared to lose every dollar. Because there was one thing money had never been able to buy. The person you love choosing you when it costs them everything. The warehouse was almost completely dark. Daniel parked 2 buildings away. Claire looked at the photograph on her phone again. Noah was sitting in a chair. His hands were tied. He looked frightened, but he was conscious. "He's alive," Daniel whispered. Claire nodded. "That's what matters." Daniel looked at her. "No." She turned. "What? You matter too." She shook her head. "Right now, Noah comes first." Daniel took her hand. "Then we bring him home." They got out of the car. Claire's security team stayed behind them, waiting for the signal. The warehouse doors were open. That frightened Claire more than if they had been locked. Inside, the building smelled of oil and dust. A single light hung from the ceiling. Noah sat beneath it. Claire's heart nearly broke. "Noah." His head snapped up. "Claire." Daniel started forward. A voice stopped him. "Don't." Richard Bennett stepped out of the shadows. He was holding no weapon. He didn't need one. 2 men stood behind Noah. Claire stepped forward. "Let him go." Richard smiled. "You came. You knew I would. I was counting on it." Daniel moved beside her. "Where's my son?" Richard looked at him. "He's unharmed. You touched him." "No." Daniel's voice became cold. "Then we're done." Richard laughed. "Not yet." The Claire looked at him. "You wanted the trust. Wes, I'll activate it." Richard smiled. "Good. But there's a condition." His smile disappeared. "What condition?" "I control it. You don't." "Actually, I do." Claire pulled the old letter from her coat. "If the trust is activated under coercion, the assets are frozen for 10 years. Richard stared at her. "That's impossible. My great-great-father planned for people like you." Richard's expression hardened. "You're bluffing." Claire shook her head. "I'm not." Richard looked toward Noah. "Then maybe we need to reconsider your motivation." He nodded toward one of the men. The man moved toward Noah. Daniel stepped forward. "Stop." The Claire raised her hand. "Daniel." He stopped. Richard smiled. "Very good." The Claire looked at him. "You want the trust?" "Yes." "Then let Noah go." "No." "Why?" "Because I need proof that you'll activate it." Claire stared at him. "You don't trust me." Richard laughed. "You're a Bennett." She almost smiled. "That's the first thing we've agreed on." Richard stepped closer. "You have no idea what your family has done." "I know enough." "Nope." His voice sharpened. "You know what they wanted you to know." Claire looked at him. "Then tell me." Richard stared at her. "Your grandfather didn't create that trust to protect you." Claire frowned. "He created it to protect the family." "Wrong." "Then why?" Richard pointed at her. "Because he knew you were the only one he couldn't control." Claire went silent. Richard continued. "Your father was weak. Careful. Your grandfather knew it. He smiled bitterly. So he created a fortune that would eventually belong to you. And you wanted it. I deserved it. You stole it. I managed it. You stole it." Richard's expression changed. "You have no idea how much I built. Neither does my family." "Exactly." He stepped closer. "Your great-grandfather started with nothing." Claire shook her head. "He started with opportunities other people didn't have." Richard laughed, still defending them. "No." Claire looked toward Noah. "I'm defending what is right." Richard glanced at Daniel. "And this?" "What?" "This is why you walked away from your family." Claire nodded. "Partly. You threw away billions for a construction worker." Daniel stiffened. Claire didn't. "I didn't throw anything away." She looked at Richard. "I chose." Richard laughed. "Love doesn't last." Claire smiled faintly. "Maybe." Then she looked at Daniel. "But I've already seen what money doesn't do." Richard's expression hardened. "It doesn't matter." He nodded toward the papers on a nearby table. "Sign." Claire walked toward them. Daniel grabbed her arm. "Don't." She looked at him. "If I don't, Noah stays here. We'll find another way. We don't have time." Daniel shook his head. I'm not letting you sacrifice everything. Claire smiled. Daniel. What? You taught me something. He looked confused. At the diner, his expression softened. The $10. She nodded. You helped me without asking who I was. I didn't know. Exactly. But she looked at him. You saw me before you knew my name. Daniel's eyes filled. Claire turned toward the table. I want Noah safe. Richard pushed the papers toward her. Sign. Claire picked up the pen, then stopped. One thing first. What? Let Noah go. Richard laughed. Not yet. Then no signature. He stared at her. Claire put the pen down. You need me. Richard's expression darkened. Don't test me. I'm not. She stepped closer. You need me alive. Richard said nothing. You need my fingerprints, my authorization, my signature. Silence. You need me to voluntarily activate the trust. Richard's jaw tightened. So let Noah go. For several seconds, nobody moved. Then Richard nodded. One of the men untied Noah. He ran. Daniel caught him. Dad. Daniel dropped to his knees and hugged him. You're okay. Noah cried into his shoulder. Claire closed her eyes. She had her answer. Now she only had to finish this. Richard reached for the documents. Sign. Claire sat down. She read the first page, then the second, then the third. Finally, she looked up. I'll sign. Daniel stared at her. Claire. She smiled. It's okay. She signed. Richard grabbed the papers. He looked at the signature, then smiled. You have no idea what you've just done. Claire shook her head. Actually, I do. Richard looked at the document. The room was silent. Then his phone buzzed. He answered. What? His expression changed. No. He listened. No, that isn't possible. Claire watched him. What happened? She asked. Richard looked at her. The trust is frozen. Claire smiled. 10 years. You lied. No. She shook her head. I told you exactly what would happen. Richard looked furious. You think this is over? Claire stood. For you. She glanced at the papers. Yes. Richard pulled out his phone. I still have access to Bennett Holdings. No, you don't. He looked at her. What? Claire's security director stepped into the warehouse. Behind him were several officers. Richard froze. Claire had already sent the documents to the authorities before entering the building. The records from the farmhouse. The transactions. The photographs. Everything. Richard looked at her. You planned this? No. Claire shook her head. I prepared for it. The police moved toward him. Richard tried to step back. One officer grabbed his arm. Richard Bennett, you're under arrest. He stared at Claire. You'll regret this. Claire looked at him calmly. I already regretted trusting people who didn't deserve it. The officers took him away. The warehouse became quiet. Daniel held Noah. Claire stood several feet away. For a moment, she couldn't move. Then Noah ran toward her. Claire knelt. He hugged her. Thank you. She held him tightly. You're welcome. Daniel approached. Their eyes met. Neither spoke. Then Daniel said, You really froze the trust. Claire nodded. Yes. 10 years. He smiled. You just gave up billions. Claire smiled back. No? What? I gave up something I never wanted. Daniel stepped closer. And what did you keep? Claire looked at him. You. He kissed her. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't perfect. It was simply two people who had survived something difficult finally allowing themselves to breathe. Noah covered his eyes. Gross. Daniel laughed. Claire laughed too. And for the first time in months, the fear was gone. 6 months later, Claire stood in the same diner where everything had started. Daniel sat across from her. Noah was between them, arguing about pancakes. They're vegetables. Daniel shook his head. They are not. Claire smiled. They're an acceptable breakfast. Noah pointed at her. Exactly. Daniel looked at Claire. You realize you've created a monster. I've been told. Maria came over with coffee. She looked at Claire's hand. The wedding ring was impossible to miss. Well? Claire smiled. Hey, Maria. Maria looked at Daniel, then Noah, then back at Claire. I knew it. Daniel laughed. You always say that. Because I'm always right. She walked away. Claire looked at Daniel. Remember this place. How could I forget? You gave me $10. You were broke. The Claire rolled her eyes. I was not. You had $12. I had access to money. That doesn't count. She smiled. Maybe. Daniel reached across the table, their fingers intertwined. Do you ever regret it? Claire knew exactly what he meant. The inheritance, the whole thing. She looked at Noah. Then Daniel. No, not even once. She shook her head. I spent my entire life thinking being rich meant never needing anyone. Daniel waited. Then I met you. She smiled. And I realized needing someone isn't weakness. Daniel squeezed her hand. What about the trust? It's still frozen. For 10 years. Less. What happens after that? Claire smiled. We'll see. Daniel laughed. You don't even want to know. Not really? Why? She looked around the diner. At the cracked booths. The old counter. The coffee machine that still sounded like it was fighting for its life. At Noah laughing over his pancakes. Then she looked at Daniel. Because this is enough. He smiled. Claire looked down at the old receipt she had kept all these years. $7.80. Plus tax. And she remembered the woman she had been that morning. Scared. Lonely. Desperate to discover whether anyone could love her without knowing what she was worth. Daniel had answered that question without ever knowing he was answering it. He had seen a woman with $12. Not a billionaire. Not an heiress. Not a name. Just Claire. And somehow, that simple breakfast had given her something her family's fortune never could. A place where she belonged. A year later, Claire and Daniel were married. It was a small ceremony. No reporters. No business executives. No giant ballroom. Just family. Friends. And Noah standing beside Daniel with the rings. This time, he didn't drop them. Mostly. Claire's father walked her down the aisle. Before they reached Daniel, Edward stopped. I owe you something. Claire looked at him. What? An apology. She smiled sadly. You owe me several. He laughed quietly. Fair. Then he looked at Daniel. Take care of her. Daniel smiled. I will. Edward nodded. Claire took her father's arm. They continued down the aisle. When she reached Daniel, she looked at him, the man who had once lent her $10. The man who had walked away when he learned the truth. The man who had come back anyway. She smiled. I choose you. Daniel took her hand. I choose you too. Noah whispered, Can we eat now? Everyone laughed. Claire looked at Daniel. Apparently that's our family tradition. Could be worse. They kissed. And somewhere in the back of the room, Claire's mother cried. Not because the billionaire heiress had found a husband, but because her daughter had finally found something far more valuable. A family she had chosen for herself. 2 years later, Claire would still keep that old diner receipt. It would sit inside a frame in their kitchen. Whenever someone asked why she had kept something so insignificant, she would smile. Because it wasn't insignificant. It was the beginning. The beginning of the day she learned that wealth wasn't measured by the number in a bank account. It wasn't measured by houses, or companies, or inheritance. It wasn't even measured by how much you could give someone. Sometimes wealth was simply having one person who stayed when they had every reason to leave. Daniel had stayed. Claire had stayed. And Noah had become the bridge between two people who never should have belonged together. The billionaire heiress had pretended to be poor because she wanted to know whether someone could love her without her money. She got her answer. Not immediately. Not easily, but honestly. And when she finally stopped pretending, Daniel didn't love her because she was wealthy. He loved her because she was Claire. The woman with $12. The woman who was afraid. The woman who made mistakes. The woman who chose love over power. And the woman who discovered that sometimes The greatest fortune in the world isn't something you inherit. It's something you build. Together. If you enjoyed Claire and Daniel's story, subscribe to Between Raindrops Stories for more emotional romances about impossible odds, second chances, sacrifice, and the kind of love that is worth choosing again and again.